What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another great edition of No Love Philly, the podcast dedicated to artists, activists, musicians, comedians, breweries, basically anybody in and around or passing through the city of brotherly love that makes this place as awesome as it is. Fuck, man, we got a great one. We got to interview, thanks to Buck's Drum Company, we got to speak to Mike from Modern Drummer Magazine. Dude, you got to know who Modern Drummer Magazine is. He's actually one of the managing editors of the magazine. It's one of the most, it's like a 40-year-old magazine, interviews all the best drummers that perform anywhere. But we got to talk to him about like just so much stuff, man. It was a short interview, 20 something minutes, but we got to talk to him about what the process of getting drums reviewed inside Modern Drummer. We got to talk to him about that process that he has there. We got to talk about like some of the best interviews that he's done. I really wish that I would have, dude. We talk about like that he got the drummer for Michael Jackson, like Michael Jackson's drummer, an interview with that dude, and there's probably not a huge chance that there's very many interviews of that dude out there, and these guys got like a 10,000 word interview with this dude. But I just getting to talk, there's so much that I wish I would have asked him. I wish I would have had more time. I hope that he comes through again so that I can ask him more. I would love to ask him about things about Travis Barker. I don't know if he's interviewed him. I'd love to ask him about interview questions. There's just so much, and we got to talk about so much. It was such an awesome thing. I'm thankful from Karen from the Fire for letting us do that. That's where I'm doing all my interviews now. If you want to get interviewed at No Love Philly, you need to go to the Fire. That's where it's happening. In fact, we should probably talk about some events that they have going on. Let's see here. Let's see what's going on at the Fire. There's a lot. So let's start off, I guess, by the time this comes out, you have February 14th, Glam Rock Valentine, Cowbell Superstar, and Candy Volcano. I'm supposed to interview one of those folks. I cannot do it on the 14th. It's probably already passed by the time you're listening to this, but yeah, I cannot do that day. My wife, no. So we have, but it's super interesting story, man. I cannot wait to interview these people. I cannot wait. There's a missing prosthetic that happens. There's a dude who had a guitar designed by him by Les Paul, so that he could continue jamming even after losing a limb. Like I said, there's a missing prosthetic that ends up getting found at the Fire. There's just so much, and this prosthetic is so fucking badass. But yeah, so I can't go to that, but I hope that you do. February 14th, go to Glam Rock Valentine, Cowbell Superstar, and Candy Volcano at the Fire, February 14th. That would be an awesome Valentine's Day party to go to. On February 15th, if you missed Valentine's Day and want to do something awesome, check out Gibeus Moon and Chino Cowboy Bohemian Less Popular Creeps, going down at 8 p.m. at the Fire, February 15th. The 16th, you have the Marvel Black Panther costume and dance party. That shit's going to be lit. February 16th, Marvel Black Panther and costume and dance party benefit. February 17th, Super Collider X featuring homemade weapons, going down at 9 p.m. at the Fire. Then you have February 18th, Rick Fed's World's Fattest Finger Drummer, other finger performances. I don't know what that means, but that's going down February 18th at the Fire. February 20th, Church, open heckle mic. This is one that I want to see. An open heckle mic, I would love to see how that goes down, but that's going down February 20th. God, I hope we can get interviews with those people. I'm so wondering what that's about. February 21st, Women Crush Wednesday. Yo, Camp Candle, I know, is doing something on Women Crush Wednesday, one of these Wednesdays. I think it's February 21st, but I could be wrong. But you definitely want to check that out. Camp Candle's the shit, and they were a guest on the show, so you definitely want to see that. February 22nd, you have Pit Hair, Gia, and more metal. I fucking love metal. February 22nd at the Fire, Pit Hair, Gia, and more metal. Panophonic, Hidden Lights, Primitive Heart, Vicious Blossoms going down February 23rd at the Fire. Melancholy Fox, Styrofoam Dinosaur, War Park going down February 24th. And that's it for the month of February. But for now, we bring you Mike from Modern Drummer. And it is an awesome interview, and I'm so thankful that we got it. And he's such a down-to-earth dude, and I wish I could be down-to-earth. And I point out in the interview that I cannot possibly be down-to-earth the way that this guy is, especially Chris. Jesus Christ, that guy is super down-to-earth. Super cool people. So glad to see this happening in the Philadelphia area. The fucking... The awesome stuff that happens living here, dude. Living in this New York, New Jersey, like Philadelphia corridor is just, it's something else. The people that you run into, the things that happen are just amazing. And I love this place, and I don't take anything for granted. Mike, thank you so much. Oh, we talk about his podcast, Mike and Mike. You'll hear more about it. It's just, trust me, it's an awesome interview. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, Mike, for doing this. Thank you for the people at Bucks County Drum Company for doing this. Thank you, Karen, for letting me host it at your place. I'm just so filled with and thankfulness, and I'm just appreciative and seeing where this is going. And I just can't see. I can't wait to see what happens next. But here we go, man. Enjoy this interview. This is legitimately why I hate talking to guests before I press record, because there's always some badass story that comes up. So you're golden. Just do a check for me real quick.
Mic check 1, 2.
Man, we are fucking on. All right, dude. So I'm here with Mike. I don't want to butcher your last name. Why don't you?
Dawson.
All right, Dawson. Okay,
Simple
great.
enough.
So Mike Dawson from Modern Drummer.
Yep.
Right? Premier lecturer at University of Penn. Is that right?
University of the Arts.
University of Arts. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, dude. So my first connection before we get into this badass, I was in San Antonio when they stole a bunch of cymbal story. Is dude, how did you come into Modern Drummer? How did that? Because you're the editor there, right?
Managing editor.
Managing editor.
Yep. One of 4 editors. It's kind of a pretty crazy story.
You'll have to hold that close. I wish I had badass.
Is it better?
Yeah, perfect.
All right. So I was a graduate student at the University of the Arts here in Philadelphia, and one of the courses that we had to take was music journalism, and I had 0 experience in that, 0 even thoughts of being a journalist. But the professor at the time was a senior editor at Modern Drummer, and I was a reader of the magazine my whole life. So I just knew right away, all right, I'm going to take this class very seriously. I'm just going to do my best. And it turns out that I just had a natural skill at editing and all that stuff, writing. So at the end of the year, he literally when I graduated, he sent me an email and said, we are looking to hire another editor. I think you'd be a good candidate. Why don't you come up and interview?
Jesus Christ, man. Most people have to write for a while to get a managing editor position.
Yeah, well, I started out as associate editor. I was brought in mostly to do educational columns because my background is in education.
Yeah, I saw that.
Things just, over the years, he left. I took over more his role. I've been there 13 and a half years. So I literally went from having to find a new apartment to moving to a new place in a couple weeks. It was insane. It was really strange.
So where are you based out of, actually? I thought it was New York.
We're in New Jersey. We are just outside of New York, Fairfield, tiny little town, but we're straight out of the Lincoln Tunnel, half hour, something like that.
Dude, that's crazy. So you went for music education, is that correct?
Undergrad music ed, master's in performance jazz.
I'm really curious, man, because as a person that's been a music journalist for, I don't know, since the early 2000s and never taken a music journalism class, what in the world, what benefit? I can't imagine what they would cover. It's usually just ask badass questions.
It was kind of like a careers class. So he exposed us to writing for publications. So we had to interview someone. I interviewed my dad about being a Little League baseball coach. And then we learned how to put together a formal book proposal, like how to
that's actually really
publishers. Yeah. A lot of just basic editing, like how to copy edit and things like that. And then when I took over the class, because I now teach that class, I added some publicity elements. So I teach the students how to write press releases and the proper ways to go about getting your new book or album reviewed by the press, the right protocol to present yourself in a professional way. So that's basically it. It's kind of like preparing these students for you're going to become going from being a student to all of a sudden you're in the professional realm and you're competing with the greatest artists in the world. What can you do to present yourself in a professional way so you can be taken seriously at that entry level spot?
So if we could, let's talk about print media just a little bit.
Sure.
So Modern Drummer, I mean, I remember always seeing it, Barnes & Noble,
Yep.
front and center.
Yep.
You've been in it for 13 years.
Yep.
You've seen this print medium kind of, I don't know, what's your take on the actual physical print medium? I mean, are you guys still throwing out copies like that? Or
Yeah, we do. We still print, and it's still our number one. I mean, it's our bread and butter. It's still doing well. It's still outselling. We do have a digital version, so you can subscribe just to the website and all that. But the print is still outselling that. I think with Modern Drummer, it's different than your typical monthly commercial magazine, where the guys and girls who read the magazine like keep it. It becomes like a resource. So we have interviews with people that no one has ever interviewed, like Ndugu Chancellor, who played on the Michael Jackson song Billie Jean. He just passed away. I don't think anyone ever interviewed him. We have a 10,000 word interview in our archive.
What?
So we've got 40 plus years of just content. So for us, I mean, of course, internet has definitely, put a major cut into, the profits and Borders bookstore, like things are shutting down. So our distribution isn't quite as wide as it used to be, but it still sells. So that's, I think, the tangible, and we have a lot of like lessons in there, so drummers can keep the magazine more like a book, and practice out of it. So,
like a reference guide.
yeah, I've met so many people that say I've got every issue from year one until now. That's 40 plus years of magazines that they just keep.
Yeah,
so
right.
We're very thankful that our readers are very loyal. So that has helped us. I couldn't imagine being like a general magazine for whatever, like a music magazine that's just general. I think that would be tough.
Yeah, and you go to the shelves now and you see like gone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Musician
it's like,
magazine, I
whoa.
used to love it, and it's gone. Rolling Stone has gotten really small.
Really small. I mean, I remember they used to be like these large, like
Yeah.
they used to be like even the front cover was huge.
Huge, yeah.
And it's gone.
Yeah.
So it's amazing that you guys have been able to sustain that, and I think it's definitely because it's such a niche market, right?
Totally.
And you guys do get to interview all of these different people. You've interviewed, like, I'm sure tons, but what's been your favorite, best, number one interview that you've done?
That's a very good question. I'm kind of picky with who I interview these days because I have so many other things to do. So I pick the guys that are my heroes, and I treat it as if I'm going to get 2 hours with my hero, it's going to be a private lesson. So I'm going to pick his brain, get as nerdy as I possibly can. So I got to interview Steve Jordan, who currently he's John Mayer's drummer, but he was the original Saturday Night Live drummer, the original Late Show with David Letterman drummer. He's been in the Blues Brothers and hundreds of hit records. So he's like my number one hero. I got to interview him. Matt Chamberlain, another guy who, you may not know his name, but he still is on hundreds of records. He was on, all of Fiona Apple's stuff. And
I think I read somewhere that's
stuff.
your favorite drummer, right?
If I could be a drummer, it would probably be him.
Okay.
So those are the guys, not like rock stars. I'm not really interested in sitting down with rock stars, although that could be interesting, but I like the guys who are working hard and really like taking the craft very seriously. So those two guys, Glenn Kochi of the band Wilco, I've interviewed him a few times. He's become a good friend, super inspiring, creative guy. So all of them have been great.
So I've got one for you because I don't know, but have you ever been able to interview Questlove?
Not personally, no, but he's been on the cover 2 or 3 times. He's been really, really supportive of the magazine over the years.
I would say 100% that's what I would love to have is you interviewing Questlove, because that would just bring like the Philly thing together.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Right.
So
Quest would be good. Spanky, another local Philly guy. I knew him when he was working in Philly. Now he's been on our cover, and he's doing great things. There's a lot of great Philly drummers. Brian Fraser Moore, he's been on the cover. So this is a real ripe scene for drummers down here. That's why I kind of wish I still lived here. But
yeah. So so I learned the story of how you got into Modern Drummer, but how did you start teaching classes at theater at the University of the Arts?
It was just
Was Was it just because you had your master's and you applied for the gig, or like how did
No,
that?
when I took the class, it was one of the editors at Modern Drummer, and it was another gentleman who was more of a book writer. After I graduated, they wanted to just solidify that class into one kind of topic. And the former senior editor of Modern Drummer moved on and left the magazine, so they just asked me if I would come in and kind of fill his role. So I split the class with him. I do the print side, and we have a radio personality, Michael Harrison, who takes the class to the radio, and they get that side of journalism.
That's the Mike and Mike podcast, is that right?
No, he's a local DJ here in Philly.
Okay.
Jazz radio. So yeah, it was just because I had connections at the school, and they needed another person to come in. I didn't ask to do it; they asked me, but it's been cool. It's nice.
So nonchalant. Yeah, it's cool, man. That's what
that's kind of the way my life.
I got to work at a magazine and teach at a school.
Rolled,
It's whatever, So we were talking right now, and you were. Well, before we go there, when you're talking about the University of the Arts, and you're obviously a professor there, and this is a huge endorsement question, I guess you could ask. But what do you think that the most is that the students get out of that program?
That program was really, for me, it was just it's not traditional. It's not a traditional music school. It focuses more on contemporary music. It's kind of a little bit more related to the real world. Like I came up, when in my undergrad, it was more classical music, and I'm glad I did that. But I knew full and well that I wasn't going to try to get a symphony gig. There's so few of those. Whereas UArts, it's more modern music, it's jazz, it's R&B, it's funk. They're learning production, they're learning recording technology, they're learning music business. So it just felt like I was going to get more out of that program, relating to what I would want to ultimately do, which I thought was going to be a studio drummer or a touring drummer or something like that. As a master's student, it was incredibly intriguing because it's a one-year program. I got my master's degree in 2 semesters.
What?
I couldn't find any other school that I could do that. So it was intense, but, in 1 year I had a master's degree.
If we could really quick shift discussion, because you brought something that was important. You said, I didn't know if I was going to be a touring drummer.
Yeah.
So, like, that shit is a whole industry right there.
Totally.
So, crazy story, because I'm a fan of crazy ass Philly stories. That's a segment I'll do. But one of the crazy stories I have is I went to a show at Tralfamadore. It's a house show, right?
Okay.
And I go to this house show, and there's these dudes from A Great Big World, and they are, they are touring like musicians with that band.
Yeah.
And like there's actually pictures, and they've won like awards, and dude, I'm in a basement in South Philly, right. And I'm seeing them playing with this other band. It's such a wild thing, right? Like it's just such a you wouldn't. I can't think of anywhere else that I could possibly be that something like that would happen, right?
I mean, a side note, when I lived in Philly, or maybe it was the year up when I was coming up to audition and check it out, I was just driving around checking out the city. I was on South Street, and I just saw a big dude getting out of a car with some drums. He had an afro, and as I was going by, I'm like, that's Questlove. He was just doing something in Philly.
Just whatever, right? Have you had the chance to talk to the dude from Philadelphia Drum and Percussion right up here on Girard?
Yeah, of course. I did a clinic there a couple months back, September or something like that. Great shop. That is a cool spot because he's not trying to compete with the big box mega shops. He's kind of curating a nice collection of unique drums that you're not going to find anywhere else, which is neat. It's almost like a museum showroom, but you could buy everything.
Right.
Really cool.
And he's got such a great experience because I believe he was a salesperson for Zildjian, I think is what it was.
Yeah, I'm not sure. He definitely knows the gear.
Yeah, he
nothing
knows
in
his
there
stuff.
is junk. That's for sure.
Yeah, man. And so that brings me to another question: is we were talking, with Chris, and about how you guys linked up.
Right. Wow. I don't even know.
I can tell you. I can bring you up to speed because I know, right? So he and that guy's got, dude, Chris has got like a crazy badass story. Like I'm a huge fan of stories. Like I just am. And so this guy's story about like being a fucking carpenter during the day and then devoting all nights and weekends to building drums
yeah.
to eventually linking up with you and getting his stuff, like you doing a dope ass video of his drums,
I've
and
reviewed
then
a couple of his
doing a
kits.
nice
Yep.
review about it, and
Yep.
it's like he's a modern drummer.
Yep.
Like that is every kid's dream.
Right.
You know what I mean? And like he fulfilled it by giving that nights and weekends. But the story goes is that he just hit you up and said, "Hey, I have this going on. Would you like to try him out?" And you were like, "Yeah." And then you tried him out at this badass show, and then you were like, you filmed
Yeah.
it, and
Yeah, that's right. And I think JC actually had a little bit to do with it too. Maybe one of his snare drums he made for JC. I don't remember. And then also Claude Coleman with Ween, I think, was using some of Chris's stuff. So I'm always checking out who's using what, because I love the underdog story. So if I see a new company kind of rising up, I'm always paying attention. And there's quite a few around the country that are legit. They're not just guys just slapping their logo on a generic drum. And his stuff is special. It's different. He's got his own take on how to make a drum shell, and they sound like his drums. So I have nothing but support for guys who are just willing to dedicate it, because you can very easily just buy supplies, put together drums, call it a drum company. Not that that's super easy to do, but you can do that, and they'll sound good. But he's making his own shells, and that's certainly not an easy thing to do. And they just have a unique sound. So yeah, as soon as I heard them, it was like, okay, we're cool. You're legit.
so you really are, like, you were really impressed by the craftsmanship and everything that went into.
Totally, it felt.
You're gonna have to hold that closer.
I'm sorry. It's hard to describe. There's an intangible thing when you can tell someone put their soul into it. Even if it's not like the most, not to say his drums aren't gorgeous, but even if it's not the most insanely gorgeous, high-end looking thing, as soon as I touch it, I can feel that this is real. And the sound, that's all that matters. I don't care what it looks like. It's all about the sound. But he's able to do both. But yeah, it's just an intangible thing. As soon as I heard it, I'm like, okay, this is giving me something that I can't get out of my so-and-so drum or something. I mean, I'm a nerd for drums. It's nuanced stuff that, the average person like, yeah, it sounds like a snare drum. But I'm like, yeah, but hear all that extra low end.
Yeah, right. You can. All right. So, as a managing editor, do you get solicited a lot? Like, hey, I'm from this drum company. Check this out.
Oh, yeah.
Do you get a lot of free shit? Like, what?
No, I mean, the general policy is we check it out for a couple weeks, and then we either if they want to sell it, we can purchase it, or we send it to a dealer, or we return it. I mean, we have to be pretty cool about not taking gifts.
Wow, cool. But so are you solicited a lot though?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah,
is that...
yeah. Every month there's a new company that hits me up, and I have a certain barometer. I'll kind of give you my secrets. If I get an unsolicited email from someone, the first thing I'll say was, cool, I love what you're doing. You need to send me a press release and some high-res photos, and we'll begin by just running those in the magazine. That usually weeds out the people who don't have their stuff together.
Okay.
Because they can't write a press release and they don't have any photos. So
Gotcha.
if it's a guy just has one drum and he wants to send me his one drum and thinks I'm going to make him a millionaire,
Right.
that's how I kind of establish, no, you have to do your part. Establish yourself as a professional company. Make sure you actually have production. So when we do print something and people start calling, you're not like, it'll be 6 to 9 months before I get to you. That happens. Not so much anymore, but that's kind of my test. Like, if you can give me a good professional press packet with some good photos and a good description of your company and what you're going for, then we'll talk about a review down the road. That's how I do it.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
So you've got that filter. But for those that are developing drums, like, there's so many drum developers here in Philadelphia. But like, I guess so. What you're saying is that it's possible. So let's say that something does pass that
Mm-hmm.
smell test, right?
Right.
What they get a review? What do they get exactly?
Yeah, they'll get. We have a section where we run the press release edited to our style in the photo, and that's essentially like a free quarter-page ad. We just run it, and then we follow that up with, we get the product in hand, we test it out. If it doesn't have any major problems, we'll review it. If it has major problems, I'll let them know and send it back, and they can either fix it or we just won't do anything.
Wow. So there's even opportunity for correction. Hey, fix it, send it
Yeah,
back to me. I don't want to leave you a crappy review.
Yeah, I have
Ship it back to me.
pretty strict policy. I'm very supportive of everyone in the industry. It's not an easy industry. It's a small industry. So I'm not going to trash your product unless it's warranted.
So, all right, that's awesome. I do want to talk about what we originally were speaking about. And and I had to save it. So I have a segment called Crazy Ass Philly Stories. This one will be Crazy Ass Texas Stories. Um, yeah, so let's do. I want to know what the hell happened. You took a
Okay,
nice trip to my
okay,
home
yeah,
state
yeah.
of Texas.
So there's an annual percussion convention called PASIC, Percussive Art Society International Convention. And it usually rotates different cities. It's in Indianapolis a lot, but it goes all over the place. A couple years ago, it was in San Antonio. And a lot of companies ship, all their stock or whatever to that show. There's an exhibit hall where people who attend can test out cymbals, drums, whatever. Well, Sabian Cymbals is a Canadian company. So they had a truck to come all the way down from Canada to go to San Antonio. Someone hijacked the truck and then took off towards Laredo and was trying to get to Mexico. They had, I've had to guess, $500,000 worth of cymbals in that truck.
Christ.
So during the first day of the convention, there was no Sabian cymbals. They had an empty booth, and they eventually had to call every Guitar Center, every dealer they had in Texas, and just get stuff there. And then eventually, I think the last day, they found the truck before it crossed the border.
No way.
And they got everything back.
What?
They got it all back.
These guys are all like on Craigslist. Like, what do we do with this? Like, what am I gonna? It's not gold. What am I supposed to do with this?
They probably opened it up and was like, "Ooh, this is way more than I thought."
Right. Oh my
And
God.
every piece has a serial number. I mean, it would have been a disaster. I guess once they get to Mexico, who knows? But yeah, that was one for the ages. Like they went for it. They took the whole freaking truck.
That's man, yeah. I would say like that is not a kid in a candy shop, is it?
Yeah,
That's
no.
a whole nother level.
The reason I brought it up was I've seen that there's a lot of bands when they go through Texas, people steal the trailers. It happens a lot.
I'll have to look that up. That's
It's a
you're probably more in the
pretty
know.
regular thing where I'm hearing about bands who've gotten their trucks stolen.
What I know is that living in El Paso, Texas, what always happens is people always get arrested for weed. Willie Nelson,
Oh right,
Snoop
right.
Dogg. Yeah, when it happened to Willie Nelson, the judge actually tried to get Willie Nelson to sing him a song. Willie Nelson refused, right? So then this jerk off pulls out his guitar and starts singing Willie Nelson a song.
Oh, give
And he's
me
like,
a
dude, are we
break.
done here? Like, can we get moving with this shit? Like, are you gonna find me or what? You know?
It's
Um,
Willie Nelson. Come on,
yeah,
he's done so
dude.
much for your state.
Yeah. So right, and so it's just a crazy odd thing. Do you have any crazy Philly stories? Has anything crazy bizarre happened?
No, actually, no. I lived here for a year and it was pretty tame. I mean, I got to know all the local drug dealers and homeless men, so it was all good. They kind of took care of us, There was one time someone got a little aggressive with my girlfriend, and it was early in the morning. She was going to work, and one of the bartenders, I guess it was like right after the bar had shut down and cleaned up, so one of the bouncers was still there. He came out and like beat the snot out of this dude. That was the only kind of weird interaction. It was
Crazy.
actually long as we kind of knew where we were and what we were doing, nothing crazy happened here.
That's awesome,
Yeah,
man.
there were some intense moments. I had a dude just throw rocks at me for no reason.
That's an odd one. That's probably the same guy that does that to me on my way to work. So
yeah, it's like, what do you?
he's still here. You also do a podcast, so make sure
I
we
do,
talk
yeah.
about that. It's Mike and Mike, is that right?
Yep, Modern Drummer Podcast with Mike and Mike. We just recorded our 128th episode.
Congratulations.
Today. We do it every Friday. We publish an hour long, just nerd fest. We just talk all things drums, lessons, do some gear review, whatever's happening in the industry. It's become a pretty cool little scene. We feel like we're able to share, because Mike Johnston. He runs a website out in California that's incredibly successful called Mike'sLessons.com. It's live lessons. You pay a subscription and you can access tons of incredible content. So he's got his network of people. Modern Drummer's got his network of people, and we just kind of merged them all. And it's been really cool. It's kind of put like a humanity to the magazine.
So with him being in California, how do you
Mhm.
guys work that out? How was it
Skype.
done by Skype?
Yep, we do
That's
it
what
all
you do?
Skype. There's like we've gotten it down. There's a little bit of a delay, so we just had to learn to not talk over each other. That was the only thing that we had to deal with. But in general, he and I are just good friends. And what happened, the way that show started, it wasn't like we need a new business. It was we
Hey,
were
dude.
talking once a week anyway.
Right.
He was like, why don't we record this? Because we're really digging into some stuff. Like he would pick my brains about gear. I would ask him about video lighting and lessons because he's an incredible educator. So why don't we just record this? and that's how it started. We had no idea what we were doing. There's been a lot of double entendres and silliness and
Do you guys
whatever.
bring on guests as well, or is it
No.
just you two? And is it meant to be that way?
Totally, because there are a lot of drum podcasts, and all of them are interview based. All of them,
Really?
which is cool. But we were like, okay, let's do this, but we're not going to do interviews because that's what everybody does. So we're
and we
just
already
gonna,
do that.
yeah. But we have the interview. That's kind of the point. Is we're thinking two guys at a drum shop, modern drummers on the table, open it up. Let's talk about that story. That's kind of how we do it.
Dude, that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
a cool. That's a cool
So
take
I have
on
like
it.
backstories into how the story came about, or about the photo shoot, or whatever. And he's got some experience with maybe doing clinics with that guy or girl.
Oh wow! So this is like a real insight into like the magazine and stuff. This is like a behind the scenes almost.
In the industry, I mean, we've spilled some kind of secrets about the industry and all that. I mean, we try just to keep it as honest and open as possible. But it's been cool. I met people from all over the country that say they listen to it every week, and I always think no one listens. That's the only way I can get through it.
What? Are you serious? Do you host through Libsyn?
No. Where do we host it? Blueberry?
Blueberry.
Yep.
Blueberry's stats should be like crazy insane, like high. I mean,
Yeah.
as opposed to the Libsyn side.
Yeah.
I don't know what happens. Libsyn's a little bit more tight on
I
it or
don't
something.
know enough about it to even have an education.
But how could you say nobody's listening when you have the stats right there?
Well,
You're
I just want to mentally think.
okay.
I don't want to filter myself.
No, dude. I know everybody's listening.
I don't want to get
I'm trying to be modest here.
Because because I do all the editing of the show and post production, and every once in a while I'm like, man, I really tripped over my tongue, and I'm tempted to like cut it out. I'm like, nah, just let it roll.
That's one thing that I read about you. You said that whatever you're gonna do, you do it right, or you do it the best to your ability. And things like that.
Yeah. I can thank my father for that.
Yeah, it's probably my lack of honor, but I definitely there's no post editing here. I record it, I run it, and that's the way that it.
That's the way that it
happens.
I mean, I have nothing but respect for that. I think Joe Rogan is one of my favorite podcasters.
Yeah,
long form, 3 hours. They
yeah,
can go wherever.
he can't possibly do anything to post edit.
No, it's live.
He does it live. Yeah,
and I love that. Chris D'Elia, one of my favorite comics, he just sits in front of a camera and just works out jokes to his listeners, which is awesome. I like that. I like the. Because I don't like the real scripted, hey, we're going to do this and here's some sound effects. I mean, that's not what we're going for.
And it's so cool, too, because you can do it with something like this and just
exactly.
Get the job
I record on a Zoom H2.
Okay, all right, excellent. Wednesday, I'll be able to afford the Zoom H6. That's something that I'm
Right,
really excited about.
Nice.
That's one of my goals, man. Hey, is there anything else that you'd like to add? Maybe something I missed, something that you're interested in saying?
Not really. I mean, I think I don't know exactly who is listening to this show, but I think make sure you get out and support the arts. I think we take it for granted, and we're kind of seeing it a little bit as the community, as the funding gets tighter. I think it's important for us to remember that arts is a crucial part of our culture. Go out and see some paintings, see some music. Just don't rely on YouTube and Instagram for your art, those are great mediums, but there literally is nothing, for me, there's nothing like seeing high performance art live in the flesh, whether it's theater or music or whatever, or painting, to see an actual painting rather than a picture of it. So that's the only thing I would say, was just make sure you're, just giving yourself a little bit of extra effort. It's easy to stay home. Just go out, check out some stuff, check out some bands. This club I've never been to, Fire.
This place is going through a transition right now.
Oh yeah,
I'm so fucking excited about what's about to happen here. Like I'm like crazy excited.
Awesome.
Karen, she's a classically trained opera singer. I don't know. If you know that.
No, that's cool.
But she's the one. I believe, as I understand it, she's the one that's pushing for like these clinics to happen.
No, that's awesome.
Turning this into not just a venue but a learning space.
That's great.
And so yeah, definitely come to the Fire and check out some live music and art and learn something and.
Yeah, I mean, I used to go to Ortlieb's every week and just sit and watch Mickey Roker play every Monday. I think it was. He would just have a jam session where he would play and have anyone who came in could play. He was super supportive. And this guy had been on hundreds of classic jazz records, and he's just here hanging out,
just jamming,
just hanging out. Never left Philly. So yeah, there's a lot of that in this town. It felt like Philly is like a small town in a big city. You got the vibe of like you can really intermingle with people. Where New York is just good luck. You just got to go. It's so fast paced.
Don't stop.
Good luck. This is a little bit different.
Absolutely, man. Hey, Mike, thank you so much for your time, taking time to speak with me. I really appreciate it. You're very humble, very calm dude. Just like just like Chris, man, another very humble
Yeah,
dude.
right.
I got to learn some humility.
Hey.
I think.
Let the works do its, talking for you. That's my motto.
Awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate you. Thank you again, and we'll let you know when it airs, man.
Awesome. Thanks.
You bet.